What's up, YouTube? It's TF Collector, and today I'll be reviewing the Transformers Studios Series number 116 Deluxe Class Bumblebee from the Bumblebee movie. And before we get into the figure itself, let's go ahead and take a look at the packaging he comes in. You can see on the front you have a picture of the Volkswagen instead of Bumblebee himself, which is a little different, but can't complain. Studio Series 116, his name is Bumblebee. He's an Autobot, eating up Hasbro, Transformers Generations, Takara, and Bumblebee there. On this side of the packaging, he is number 116 of Studio Series. There you have a nice profile shot of Bumblebee. He is a deluxe class. On this other side, you have another shot of B with the Autobot logo there, authentic logo there. On the back of the packaging, he is big screen inspired from Bumblebee movies. Name's Bumblebee from Charlie's Garage. You can see some nice product images here. Transforms in 23 steps. This is a licensed Volkswagen. Bumblebee tunes up and lays low in Charlie's Garage. Backdrop included. We will take a look at that later. You have a barcode there. On the bottom, you got words. On the top, Transformers Bumblebee. And once again, before we dive into the figure itself, he does, of course, include his instruction manual here. He is 116 of Studio Series. His name is Bumblebee from the Bumblebee movie. There you have a picture of him. He's eating up Transformers Generations on the back. Hasbro, Takara Tomy, and licensed Volkswagen product. And moving to the figure itself, here is Bumblebee as a Volkswagen Beetle as he appears in the Bumblebee movie. And this is Hasbro's second take on this Volkswagen version of Bumblebee. And I must say they did a much better job this time around with this figure than they did with Studio Series 18. But coming close to the details, you can see on the front, you have a nice grille. Not painted, it's more of just this dull looking gray, tannish plastic, more gray. But you can see that you have nice headlights there, some more orange lights picked out. You do have silver rims all around, and if you get real close in there, if we can see if it'll focus, I don't think it's going to want to, but you can kind of see it. You can see there is a Volkswagen logo in the middle of the rim there, which is awesome. But around the figure, you have nice painted windshield wipers, 3 clear windows, and these 2 are painted, and then your back windshield is also in clear translucent plastic. That same color used for the bumper with some red tail lights and a nice little handle molded in there. I assume that's a handle. That could be where the license plate goes. I don't know. But there's the top of the figure. There is the bottom of the figure. You can see everything that's going to go on. But overall, it looks pretty good, and I think they matched the yellow on this figure very well. He looks awesome here in his alt mode. And when it comes to accessories, Bumblebee includes 2 accessories. First, you get his blaster, done very nicely here in a gray plastic and painted over in yellow, which looks awesome. I love the way they painted this blaster. Nice molded detail all around. And you also get his blade with the nice silver paint on the blade itself, and the rest just done in yellow. And you can store these weapons here in alt mode. The first thing you're going to want to do is take this tab on the blade and plug it in right there into the bottom of the blaster, and then you'll see you have these 2 little exhausts, really is what I think they're supposed to be, but they will go into this little notch here on the blade, so you can just line that up and push that on, and I swear it works. I swear it works. I've done it. And of course, when the camera is on, it doesn't want to do it. But there you go. You can have that stored there, and not very elegant, but nonetheless, it is storage. Now, as far as comparisons go, I have a ton, so we're going to try to go through them really quick. Actually, we're going to put B in the middle here so we can go through them even quicker. First, if I can grab him real quick, here he is with Studio Series Dropkick and Shatter in their car modes. Here he is with Dropkick and Shatter in their helicopter and jet modes. Here he is with Studio Series 38 Optimus Prime, so you can see how B looks alongside Prime there, and I think that those 2 do look really good together. Love the way these have turned out. And to start a slew of Bumblebees, first here he is with Studio Series Jeep B and Cybertron B, so you can see how he looks with other versions of himself from the Bumblebee movie, and I love the way this lineup looks. It looks very nice. Here he is with another version of himself. This is actually from the 2007 Transformers movie, but if you've seen Bumblebee, you know he turns into that car at the end, so kind of a necessary comparison. And also here he is with what he would become in the next film in his Rise of the Beast form, and I think these three also look great together. And last but certainly not least, here he is with Studio Series 18 Bumblebee. So you can see the difference between the old one and the new one. I'm going to pop this little face mask off so you get a better look at the way they did the Volkswagens. But you can see the differences, what they changed, what they kept the same. Overall, it is the same base of a figure. This one, I like the way this one's painted more. I do appreciate the translucent windows all around on the old one, but overall I think the new one is looking better in alt mode here, and as you'll see when we get to robot mode, certainly looks better in robot mode. But there you have with the original version of this figure. Glad they gave this guy a rego. And with all that said and done, I think the alt mode looks pretty good here in the Volkswagen Beetle mode. But let's go ahead and transform Bumblebee into his much improved robot mode. So the first thing we're going to do is come under here. You're just going to unnotch his hands. There are little notches for them under there. And you can also see there is a tab right there that goes down in that section. You're just going to pull that forward so you can see that goes in there. And also the thumb kind of notches in right in there. So do the same thing with the other arm. Just pull that up, preferably without breaking your ball joint. But pull this section up like so. And this is a ball joint. You can just bloop, plug that right back on. And if it hasn't done it for you already, you're basically going to turn this piece and bring it up. So do the same thing on this side. Turn this piece and bring it up like that. You can bring your arms down a little if you want. Now what we're going to do is come back here to the doors and basically get them undone. So they're tabbed in multiple different places and also kind of notched behind this little wheel section right there. So just bring that door out. Do the same thing on the other side. Just grab the other door and just undo that. Bring that out like so. And there you have your doors like that. And now just take this whole section. And you can see it just tabs down in under there. But go ahead and untab that and pull it up like that to get it out of the way. Now what we can do is come to the legs here for B and straighten them out. We can go ahead and split the legs also. You can come to these pieces on each side. Just flip these sections around and they will tab into the thigh, and now we can finish the legs up. So basically what you're going to want to do is pull this piece all the way back as far as you can get it, bring the foot down, bring this piece down over top of the ankle, and take this wheel and flip it under his foot. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Of course, bring this piece back as far as you can get it, bring the foot down, bring this piece down over the ankle, and flip that wheel under. So you have the legs done for Bumblebee. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make sure these doors are straightened out like this, and we're going to take this whole section and it is going to come down, and you can see there's a tab there that will go into a slot right there. So just bring that down and tab that in, and you can go ahead and bloop, angle those pieces in like that. Do the same thing on the other side. Make sure that door is straightened out first, and then just bring that down, tab that in, bloop, angle his little pec there, and you can make sure your arms are oriented how you want them to be. Now to finish up the backpack, this is just the same Studio Series Bumblebee backpack. You fold this piece in, and that tab there will go over top of that section there, and that section itself will go into this little groove right here. So just bring that up, and that will go into that little groove like that. And to finish up the doors, you come back here, just flip these pieces in, and happily with this improved version of Bumblebee, to get a movie accurate look, we can now push the doors down almost all the way so that they're almost not visible, and that gives for a much more screen accurate robot mode. And speaking of robot mode, there is Bumblebee in his robot mode. And everything said and done, transformation complete. Well done, Hasbro. This is much better than Studio Series 18, much more accurate, much better looking, and I much more enjoy this figure. But coming in close, you can see the head sculpt there is done beautifully. If I can get it to focus right there, you can see the yellow with the silver on the face looks beautiful. Blue eyes, Autobot logo there on the crest of the head. Very reminiscent of what we see in the Bumblebee movie. Looks very good. The chest well painted, looks very nice. Nice molded detailing down here in the ab section. Wish some of it was painted, of course, but they did add some nice paint here on the thigh and some more awesome molded detailing all throughout. Now in the robot mode, the yellows are a little mismatched because this is painted yellow and this is plastic yellow, but I think they did a pretty good job matching the colors. You can see that piece there. Nice inclusion, very movie accurate, putting that little ankle piece there. Overall, of course, he has a little bit of a backpack and you do have the wings there, but overall, I think he looks really good. Love the way the tires go under the foot and even on the arms. Nice molded details all throughout. Just overall, this figure looks awesome. That neck piece there even has some molded detailing that really looks amazing. Love the way they did this figure. I think they knocked this robot mode out of the park. And I've now realized that I've said the phrase everything said and done about 5 times throughout this video already. So now I'm going to say continuing and moving to the articulation of this figure. Head is on a ball joint so it can turn left and right. I can't really get it to do a full 360 because it kind of collides with that piece right there. So not really any full 360 ability, but it can move side to side. It can look up a little, down a little. You do get a little wiggle waggle there. The doors are on hinges so they can move up and down and forward and back. The elbow shoulder, that is a shoulder, is on a ball joint, can do a full 360 and move in and out. Due to transformation, you have this hinge here, so you can shift his arm down if you want to for whatever reason. Elbows are on ball joints, so you get rotation, a little wiggle waggle around, and you also get elbow movement, of course, 90 degrees, which is very nice. Nothing at the wrist. Unfortunately, nothing at the waist, which is the one flaw with this figure because Studio Series 18 did have a waist joint, so unfortunately they weren't able to include that here, but it is still a well-articulated figure. Leg can go up that high, back that far, outward, just enough to where you hit that piece there. You do get thigh rotation. You get about 90 degrees at the knee, and at the ankle you can move up and down. Of course, that piece does move. You do get ankle tilting, and you can rotate the ankle side to side. So other than a waist joint and a wrist joint, which really isn't expected with deluxe figures, I think this guy is very well articulated. And if we bring in Bee's accessories, you can store in the robot mode. Basically, you're just going to tab them together the same way as you did in alt mode. Turn him around here, and you do have to raise his door up a little to give you clearance. Basically, that tab there will go through this part of the sword, so you can just line that up right there. It's easier if you tab the sword on first and then tab the little blaster on after, like that. But you can see that can store there on the back. But he can, of course, wield his weapons, which is what we are going to have him doing, what I'm going to have him doing. You can do whatever you want. But basically, these 2 tabs on the blade will go into the 2 tabs on the arm, right there. And the gun here will plug over top of the hand, so you can just plug that on like so, and you can make it look like his hand has transformed. And I think that those weapon options look absolutely freaking awesome. And for some quick comparisons with other figures you might have in your collection, first, here is Studio Series 116B with Off-Road Bumblebee and Cybertronian Mode Bumblebee from the Studio Series line, who neither one seem to want to stand. There we go. There you have him with Cybertronian B on the right and Off-Road B on the left. Their heads are swapped, if you're wondering why they look like that, but there he is with those figures. Here he is with Studio Series Shatter and Dropkick, Car Mode Dropkick and Jet Mode Shatter, the more accurate versions of the characters. I didn't want to transform both, so here he is with the more accurate versions, and I say he looks really good alongside the main Decepticons from the Bumblebee movie. Here he is with 2007 Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts Bumblebee, so you can see how he looks with a future version of himself and a different universe version of himself, and I'd say these Bumblebees do look great together. And furthering my complaint, this version of this character, which is basically how this one works too, has a waist joint. This one doesn't, which sucks, but these figures do look great together. Here he is with Studio Series 38 Voyager Optimus Prime, so you can see how he looks with the Prime from his respective movie, and I always have loved that Prime figure, and with this Bumblebee certainly being an upgrade over Studio Series 18, I would say these two look absolutely awesome side by side. And last but not least, as for figures go, here he is with Studio Series 18, the original version of this figure, so you can see what they improved, what they kept the same, and overall, proportions-wise, head sculpt, body sculpt, just everything. This newer version is looking way better. And of course, the articulating doors that make him much more accurate. If 18 will stand up for me, you can see if we spin them around, overall, this new version looking way more screen accurate and way better in my opinion. So this guy will now be displayed in Volkswagen mode because this robot mode is much, much better. And finally, here he is with a CG model of himself, so you can see how close they got this guy to how he appeared in the movie. And while the doors are still a little visible there in the back, I must say this is a much better attempt at this figure, and I don't think they need to do any more attempts. This guy is a really great figure. Love the way he turned out. Super happy they gave this guy a second go. And if we slide Bumblebee out of the way, the last thing to talk about is the display base that used to come in these Studio Series packages. Now sadly discontinued, but we do get one with this figure because he is releasing a little late. He was supposed to be a part of the January wave and got delayed. But you can see 116 Studio Series Bumblebee Authentic Generations Transformers. And you can see Charlie's garage in the background there. And if you want, you can plop Bumblebee down right there, and that makes for an awesome display option if you have the space to use it. So that is my review for Transformers Studio Series 116 Deluxe Class Bumblebee from the Bumblebee movie, and overall, this figure is way better than the original Studio Series 18, knocks it out of the park in every aspect except for a waist swivel. The robot mode is much better. The alt mode, I like the coloring better. I think it looks better, and the transformation is much more smooth and much more enjoyable on this new version. Definitely, if you're looking to get a version of this Bumblebee, get this guy because he's way better than the original, in my opinion. Of course, you can form your own opinion, but I feel like most people will agree that this guy is way better. Now, one thing I didn't touch on in the review is that the original Bumblebee came with this mask here that you could put on his face. This guy is not compatible with that. You can't put any battle masks on him. I'm not sure if you could rip his head off and replace it with the head that comes on the Cybertronian mode Bumblebee that has the mask. I haven't tried it, but if you want to try that, you totally can. But me personally, I'm going to display him with this awesome head sculpt that was included on the figure itself. So overall, way better than the original version. Certainly recommending this guy. If I had to rate him on a scale of 1 to 10, this Bumblebee is going to get a very solid 9 out of 10. I think he is a very well done figure. Looks great overall. Do wish the doors could come down even further. That way you got even more of a movie accurate profile there in robot mode. But overall, still super happy with the way this guy has turned out. So that is my review for the new version of the Bumblebee movie Bumblebee here in the Studio Series. Don't forget, never sacrifice the things you love for the approval of others. We'll be back soon with Studio Series 35 Jetfire as we travel through the Studio Series line. If you're not checking out those videos, make sure to do so because they are a great jump into the past. So with all that said and done, I'll be back with Jetfire soon, and until then, roll out. Peace.